Okay, so with that said, now that I've characterized the puzzle, walked through kind of my concept of how I characterize a puzzle, I'm not going to look at this as a floppy. I'm not going to look at this as a 5x6x7. I'm not even going to look at this as an iCube. I'm going to look at this as a camouflage cube. This is a 7x7x7 camouflage cube. But in actuality, I'm going to treat it the same way that I would treat a 5x5 camouflage cube. Whether it's 7x7 or 5x5, it's the same thing. You reduce it to a 3x3 and solve it as a 3x3. Whether this was a 4x4 or a 6x6 camouflage cube, it's the same thing. Reduce it to a 2x2x2 and solve it as such. So that's what I'm going to do. Just to show the scramble of this, even scrambling this is kind of challenging, but let's see, I can turn this over here, some of the layers that are closest to each other. Then I can maybe turn this over here. I'm trying to separate them out as much as I can. Here we go. There, then I can move the end layer here. I'm just trying to stick with the end layers first, because you can see I start bandaging it pretty quickly. And you can see that these two are bandaged here, so I'm going to move this over to here so I can free this up over here. So I'm going to try to get the best kind of a scramble, and as I'm moving from the outside in, you can see I'm already starting to bandage myself pretty good. To move this, I'm taking this entire chunk with me, all these three with me. But I'm finding myself, or this, I can take this entire chunk with me over here. But I'm finding it more and more difficult to find small layers to do that. So I'll move this over here. I'll take this big chunk over here. Now you can see already the bandaging is starting to restrict the kind of scramble that I can do. Turn over here, here, here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to scramble this the way that I would scramble a camouflage puzzle. But take a look at where I'm at right now. Right now, just by a couple of turns, I actually have this kind of in a fully bandaged state. And in that bandaged state, I have 1, 2, 3 layers. 1, 2, 3 layers. 1, 2, 3. So I've basically scrambled this to a 3x3x3. Now the way that I do a full scramble of a camouflage cube is I realize that I'm in a 3x3x3 state, and by doing a bunch of RIDIRDs, I can move them into positions where I can free things up. Like let's say I wanted to move this top over here. I can't, because something is blocking me, and it's this center won't let me do it. So I'll move that out of the way, and now I can. So now that frees that up to move. Let's say I wanted to move these away from each other. Well, I can't because this is here. So this chunk over here, this corner, which is bandaged together, I can go RIDIRD, RIDIRD, and keep moving this around until it reaches a point where it can be moved. So this can be moved, but I'm trapped with this. So I can go RIDIRD, maybe I'm there, not yet, RIDIRD. So now this can be moved, but this center is trapping it. So I'll put a different center in. This is trapping it here, RIDIRD. So now I can move it. Now I can take this and separate it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through that process. I'm going to go through the process and get as good a scramble on this as possible so you can see what it's going to take to do a 5x6x7 camouflage cube solve, even though I've been asked to call this a 5x6x7 Floppy iCube Extreme. Even though I don't really think it's a floppy, and I don't even think it's an iCube. And it's only a 5x6x7 because it's camouflaged as a 5x6x7 and is in actuality really just kind of a 5x5 or 7x7, which can move like a 3x3. So I'm going to come back at you with a full scramble, and we'll take it from there. Abracadabra. Okay, so this is about as scrambled as I think I can I can reasonably get. Most pieces have been separated from each other. So what I'm going to endeavor to do is I'm going to solve this with no new algorithms. Everything is going to be exactly the same as a 3x3 solve. As a matter of fact, I won't even have to do any floppy parodies or anything like that. One of the worries that the builder had was a certain kind of parody as you try to line up all these edges of different shapes and sizes. This strategy will eliminate any need of all that. So, join with me as we navigate through this beast here. Like any AI solve, actually like any camouflage solve, I'm going to pick a layer to start off with, put that at the bottom, and then continue a layer at the top, and then do a 3x3 solve. I'm going to try to assemble things as much as I can. What I used to do, or what I was doing at first, is to start with a 3x3 solve and try to put it in as much as possible in terms of the edges, but that didn't work so good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the green one because the green has the largest, bulkiest part of it. So here's the green center. Notice this moves like a 3x3. Here's one layer, second layer, third layer. First layer, second layer, third layer, first, second, third. So this is reduced down to a 3x3 right now. This is the green center, so this is where I'm going to place all the green assembled corners as soon as I get them. So I'm going to assemble all the corners, and I'll do it up here. So first thing I'll do is maybe start with this one over here. So I'm looking for the orange and green. What I have to do is I'm going to move this top side here by going R-I, D-I, R, D, R-I, D-I, R, D. So again, I'm going to assemble the corners up here and then bring them down there to the respective center over here. So orange and green, let's see if I can find that. Right over here. Is it the correct one? It's not, I can tell, because this orange will end up on this side by this green. So there must be another one which is here. So I'm just going to move this up, but I've got to move this to the side. R-I, D-I, R, D. This R-I, D, R, D is just moving these corner segments, and I'm defining these as corner segments into the proper place. Now what I'd like to do is move this to here, but I've got some bandaging I've got to deal with. So what's being bandaged? Nothing on this side. This is the other orange and green. So I'm just going to R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D until I eventually find it. So now I can free up the top, move this in, and bang, we're good. So we have one more layer to get through before this is fine. So let's find the other orange and green that belongs on this layer. It's obviously not that. And let's see, is it up here? And the answer is no, it must be this guy. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to move this up to here. R-I-D-I-R-D. Now I'm going to keep R-I-D-I-R-Ding it until it's rotated. Bang, zoom, splat, pow, clink, clink, clunk, and ha. Move it in, and you can see it's the wrong one. I miscalculated. So there's another one that's here. I would say probably this guy. R-I-D-I-R-D. So let's go ahead and bring this one in. D-I-R-D, D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. So this one, let's try it, and yep, there it is. So I've assembled that. Now, in terms of the middles, I'm not looking to assemble the centers. All I want to do is I want to put the edges in. So I need to put this one here. This is a center, this is a center. This is already green, but I'm not going to put the centers in. My reduction of corners is simply going to be the corner and the adjacent edges on both sides, but I'm not going to worry about the centers. So now I'm going to move this up to here, R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D, and I'm going to be looking to join this with the yellow and the green. Here's the yellow and green. Is it the right one? See, it's already movable over here. And, well, we can check it out by turning it over here and seeing that it's in the wrong layer. So I'm going to say no. So let's find another one. This probably belongs with this guy, actually, potentially. So here's the yellow and green. Let's go ahead and move this up. R-I-D-I-R-D. And now let's move it to the proper layer. D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Keep going. R-I-D-I-R-D. Okay, so I'd love to move this to here, but I'm bandaged somewhere. I'm actually bandaged by this. Now the problem is this is part of this layer. So I actually have to separate this piece from this. The way I'm going to do that, By the way, to the builder, I say that by doing this, you will not encounter any of those dreaded parodies that you came up against. So what I need to do is I need to move this away from here. And I can do that now. So I'm going to move this around until I have something that can slice through this. This is obviously going to bandage it. Move it here. And will this work? Yeah, this will move across here. R-I-D-I-R-D. Good thing about these AI type solves is they're generally parity free because you're reducing it to kind of a puzzle that will give you parity free. Now, another miscalculation because this obviously doesn't belong here. So all that just to show that that was the wrong one. This one belongs to the center, not to the corners, so it's not this one. So what about this guy over here? Well, let's move this up and see what happens. R-I-D-I-R-D. And you can tell that's not the right one. How about this? Well, I think I just did that one. Maybe this guy over here. Let's try this. R-I-D-I-R-D, and it's a matter of just placing this appropriately. Boy, I seem to be flooded with green and oranges, or green and yellows rather. Okay, how about this? Well, I think this is the right one, but look at all this bandaging that's here. That's not going to work so good. So I've got to set this up to where I can move it away from that bandaging. R-I-D-I-R-D. I got to move it away from here. R-I-D-I-R-D. Like any camouflage puzzle, the hardest part is the first part. Okay, now this is bumping up against this, so I actually have to put this in another place. Now what I can do is move it away from this guy anyway. So I'm going to move this down because, okay, so now I can move this away from here. So this can fit here because now it's not bandaged by any piece down here. So with that said, I'm not going to take this, I'm going to move this up. Oh, actually, yeah, okay. So we'll go ahead and move this down. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Okay, R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. R and D. Okay, you can see it's easy to start to lose track. I have to get the right center. These centers, I have to find one that matches. Okay, so this can be moved. Okay, now that I've done that, turn, and bang, there it is. That's really what I wanted. I wanted this corner with this edge, this and this. How do I know I'm done? I'm done because this is my 3x3 move here. So you can see that we've gone as far as we need to over here, and we've gone as far as we need to over here. So this is fully assembled. I'm not going to worry about these centers. That's going to be easily placed later. But now I'm going to take this and just move this down to the green side. So where's the green center? It's right over here. There's the green center. Now I'm going to keep doing that in true AI style. So let's see, what else can I put in? I can do any corner. So how about this over here? R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. So this will always be preserved as long as I keep it down here. What I want to do now is I want to take and move this with a green and white. It obviously doesn't belong here. This center, this edge piece that's right at the center is not going to work because it's going to bandage it. So I'm just going to keep moving this up until I find one that works, which it does. And this works too. So that's all going to be fine. So now, where is the green and white? It's this one. Yep, it's this one. So what's bandaging me right now? Looking across, looking across. I just want to move this, and I'm finding, aha, this guy over here. This is bandaging me. So R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Will that work? And yes, bang, there it is. So now we're lined up here. I don't have any more down here that I have to put in, but I've got to find another orange and green. So let's move this up, R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. So I have to move the top layer, and I also want to find another orange and green. So here's an orange and green here, R-I-D-I-R-D. Okay, let's move this into position, D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Keep doing this until it's in position. Okay, in position. So something's bandaging it, something's blocking it. What is it? This one. So let's keep turning this around. R-I-D-I-R-D. Are we good? Nope, not yet. Still bandaged, I think. Yeah, so we need this very top layer to move. So we're bandaged over here. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. And again. Nope. We may be trapped with this one. Yeah, so what I'm going to have to do is move this completely out of the way. Now, at the same time, I'm going to move this over here and realize that this actually belongs here. So I'm going to keep this over here, which is fine. And now that I've done that, I just need to slide the correct one in here, which is this one, I think, this one here. So what's bandaging me is this guy. And this one I just want completely out of the way, because there's no position that seems to be freed up, and now this can move. And because this can move now, I can start moving this over until, bang, I've got that. So taking a look at what I've got, this is all in. And with this all in, I can now take this and move it down to the proper layer, which is actually right here. All right, so I'll just move this up. So what you can see is I have these two corners that are in. This is a center. This isn't part of a corner. Well, actually, this is an edge, rather, not a reduced corner like these guys. So now I just keep going with this. Next, well, I've got a white and green. Maybe I can move that in. It belongs over here. So where am I bandaged right now? I'm bandaged right at the center, so I'll just keep moving centers up until I find... Aha, okay, so this is good here, but this won't move. And no, but it's not because of this, it's because the center. So I have to find centers that work, and there it is. So do it enough times and you'll find it, move this in, bang, we're good. Now I have to find another green and white, but in this layer. Do I happen to have one up here? And I don't, so maybe this guy. This suffices because it's right at the end. So I'm going to move this to here and R-I-D-I-R-D. Move it in, and there it is. So basically we have these. Don't let this fool you. That's a middle edge. So this is what we've got. Now I'm going to turn this around so I can put it in with a green and red. R-I-D-I-R-D. 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 Now I've got a little gift here, as you can see. I've already got this green and red, so it took down some of the work. But now I have to free up this middle layer here. This one obviously isn't going to work. This green and red is a center edge, so that's not going to work. But I've got this guy here, so maybe, just maybe this belongs to here. R-I-D-I-R-D. Keep going with that. D. Okay. So this does seem to work, and bang, there it is. So just like that, we've got this now. A corner surrounded by its edges. Don't worry about the centers, that comes later. So then there were three. 1, 2, 3. Bring this here. Find the center. I keep losing that green center, so that's here. This is the green center here, so I got to make sure I'm moving this in the right place. R, D. Okay, so Green center, 1, 2, 3. So when you solve this, now your sticker pattern, should you make a puzzle like this, might be different, but here's a green center, green, green, green. And pick the one that's the largest, that has the most layers bandaged, and there's 3 layers bandaged here. So now what we're left with is this, and we've already got a couple here. So I'm going to turn this top side, R-I, D-I, R, D, R-I, D-I, R, D. Now this is bandaged with this, so I've got to separate it out from these two. R-I, D-I, R, D, and here we go with this. So now I have the potential to separate it out, but I'm bandaged somewhere here. D, R-I, D-I, R, D, still bandaged. So after all this, so far, there's no new algorithms. Okay. We're bandaged with these centers. So now I've taken these center edges out of the picture as a bandaging. This one is stuck. R-I-D-I-R-D. So nothing too complicated. This is not the difficult part. So this is all freed up. So now what I can do is I'm free to take this away from here to not be bandaged any longer. So I'm actually trying to find a place where it won't be bandaged. Now let's see. These are obviously all set in, so if I just turn this, I can match this yellow and green with this over here. So in what direction can that go? Well, I can move this here. So what if I went like R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D, and again, perspective is a challenge with this. Yep, so that's up top, move it in, and wow, look how easy that was. So this is all okay. Now I'm looking to move this so that I can move a green, red and green straight across here. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Okay, do I happen to have one? There's this and there's this. So there's a couple of possibilities. D-I-R-D. Looks like it might be this, and bang, there it is. Now I need one on the bottom, and probably this one. R-I-D-I-R-D. Once you get a few done, like with any camouflage cube, it becomes easy. So now I've got this. So now I pretty much have the green ones in. I'm going to find the green side again. I keep losing that green side. Anyway, okay, so all my green edges are in. R, D. Okay, all of these are in, as you can see. So it's useful now to start to work on some of the layers, and you'll be able to see the order that's been made with this puzzle. So with all the green ones in, I'm going to start solving the first layer here. So here's a green here. This is the green center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting in my edges. So this is the green and white center edge, matches with this white center. So you have to bear in mind where your centers are. So this green matches with this over here. Find the other ones. That's this guy over here. Yellow. Ignore all these middle layers. I'm putting in all these middle layers, I'm just putting in my cross. So this matches with this, which matches with this. So now I'm looking for the red one, which is right here, green and red. Again, these are center edges of my 3x3 structure here. So this is good here. Move this back in, and move this here. Now it might not be necessary to do this step, but I think it'll lend to the organization a little bit to make it easier to visualize. So this here, I'm looking for white, the green and white. Where'd you go? It's right over here. So actually all I have to do is go bang. So actually I have my cross, white, red, yellow, orange, and the green here. So now I'm going to put my newly reduced corners in. Okay, this is yellow and orange. Here's yellow, here's orange and green. So I'm going to just shift this corner in like so. Any other green corners here. So this is the white, orange, and green. White, orange, green. So this shifts in right over here. And so I'm just putting my corners in now. This is like a first layer of a 3x3 and bang. So now you can see the structure starting to come together. This is this layer over here. The reason that I'm doing that is I'm going to be doing the final layers like an AI. But what I have to do is I have to get these middle layers here. So this is layer 1, this is layer 2, and this is layer 3 that I'm going to have to kind of put together. Now, the main reason that I'm doing this layer by layer is because to do this AI part, these middle edges over here, they're going to start bandaging things. So I want to be able to move this around where the only thing that's going to be bandaging each other are the corners, the reduced corners bandaging each other. I don't want the middle layers to be bandaging it because I'll end up in a trap. So the best way to do that, to afford that, is to make sure that all the edges, middle edges up here are the blue ones, because that won't bandage me at all. So this I'm going to move down to, well, this is orange, yellow, this is orange, this is yellow and orange. This will safely be tucked down over here. So I'm just doing the same algorithm as a 3x3, where this is the top layer. Don't be confused about this. I'm not counting that as a layer. I'm still bandaging it to this. So this whole thing is going to end up over here with U, R, UI, RI, U, F, UI, FI. Okay, so basically this went into over here. Again, even if these move independently, I'm still moving them as one. I'm still doing a 3x3 solver. This is one layer, this is another, this is another. So keep your perspective about you. Okay, this does not have blue. Blue is opposite green. So this is supposed to be the blue side. I've got the red and white. So here is the white, and I'm going to move this down to here. Same thing, move these as one, turn, turn. Same algorithms as a 3x3. See, nothing new. So this is here. Now it's not, this is not the middle layer. This is the middle layer. Or at least that's what I'm defining it as such. Okay, turn around here. I see this isn't blue, it's red and orange. Yellow rather, so here's this yellow. This is going to come here to this middle layer over here. So turn. Now when solving this, you might get yourself messed up from time to time. That's okay, you can easily get it back. Alright, so now this is here. Again, pay no attention to these centers. That's going to be dealt with later. It's going to be dealt with fairly simply, sort of. Anyway, this is in as you can see. This is in. Now we need this. This has to be turned upside down. So I'm just going to move it to the top. Good job on this mod, by the way. Does move very smooth. So this moves down to here. Turn, 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 and turn. Okay, so I've got these edges in where they need to be. Now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the blue edges and I'm going to rotate them correctly. Because when I do that, you can see this will always be freed up at every layer. So will this. So will this, and so will this. So it doesn't really matter, but just for the sake of convenience, you see that these two blues are up, so that's your line. These two have to be rotated, so we do F, R, U, RI, UI, FI. Okay, you can see these are all up. Now I don't have to do any orientation issues. It's just a simple matter of continuing the AI solve. But the good thing about that is now these edges here will never lock me up over here. That's why I did it that way. So like with any AI solve, my next step is I'm going to start to put in, reduce all these four corners independently.